They say marriage is a contract. They don't mention the fine print includes your soul. I'm Ray Boden, 39 years old, and I thought I knew my wife. Turns out, I didn't know shit about anything, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start with the moment everything went sideways, the day Harold Roth decided to test my manhood with a pen and a piece of paper. It was a Tuesday in March when Elise dragged me to her father's office downtown. The mahogany desk was bigger than our bedroom, and Harold sat behind it like a king dispensing judgment. His silver hair was slicked back, his suit cost more than my car, and his smile had all the warmth of a tax audit. "Ray," he said, sliding a thick document across the polished surface, "we need to discuss Elise's student loans." I glanced at my wife. She was fidgeting with her engagement ring, avoiding eye contact. That should have been my first warning. "What about them?" I asked. "They're substantial, very substantial. Before you two get married, I need you to co-sign as guarantor." I picked up the papers. The numbers made my eyes water. $230,000. For a degree in human resources that landed her a $40,000 a year job. "This is a lot of money, Harold." "It's an investment in our family's future," he said, leaning back in his leather chair. "Unless, of course, you're not serious about marrying my daughter." The threat hung in the air like smoke. Elise finally looked at me, her blue eyes pleading. We'd been together 3 years, engaged for 6 months. The wedding was planned for June. "I need to think about this," I said. Harold's face darkened. "What's to think about? Either you're committed to this family, or you're not." I looked at the contract again. The fine print was brutal. If Elise defaulted, I'd be responsible for everything. Interest, penalties, the works. My IT security consulting business was doing well, but not $200,000 in debt well. "Give me 24 hours, I said. "Ray," Elise whispered, touching my arm. "Please." That night, I sat in my apartment with a beer and a calculator. I ran the numbers every way I could think of. No matter how I sliced it, signing that paper would put me in financial prison for the next 20 years. But it wasn't really about the money, it was about respect. Harold Roth was testing me, seeing if I'd roll over and play dead. Elise was letting him do it. The next morning, I called Harold's office. "I've made my decision," I told him over the phone. "Excellent. Come in and we'll finalize everything." "No need. I'm not signing." Silence stretched across the connection like a taut wire. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. I'm not co-signing Elise's debt. And since you made it a condition of marriage, I guess there's no wedding. Now see here, young man." "I'll return the ring today," I said, and hung up. Elise showed up at my apartment 2 hours later, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "How could you do this to me?" she sobbed. "How could you throw away everything we had?" "I didn't throw it away," I said, handing her the engagement ring. "Your father did when he decided to make our marriage conditional on my financial servitude." "It's just money, Ray." "No, it's not. It's control, and I won't be controlled." She left that night and moved back in with her parents. 3 months later, the loan collectors started hounding Harold. Turns out, Daddy Dearest had already co-signed as primary guarantor, thinking I'd share the burden. When I bailed, he was stuck holding the entire bag. I heard through mutual friends that he was scrambling to restructure his finances. Apparently, $230,000 was a lot of money even for Harold Roth. Meanwhile, I took the money I'd saved for our wedding and put it toward a down payment on a house, a nice little place in Riverside with a 2-car garage and a view of the lake. It felt good to own something that was entirely mine. That's when Elise started coming around again. 6 months after our breakup, Elise began what I can only describe as a charm offensive. It started with text messages, casual, friendly, nothing too heavy. Then she showed up at Murphy's Pub, where I played pool with my buddy Pete every Thursday night. "Hey, stranger," she said, sliding onto the bar stool next to mine. She looked good. Too good. Her blonde hair was shorter now, framing her face in a way that made her eyes look bigger. She wore a black dress that was conservative enough for church but tight enough to remind me of better times. "Elise," I said, not looking up from my beer. "What are you doing here? Can't a girl get a drink?" Pete raised an eyebrow at me from across the pool table. I'd told him the whole story, and he had strong opinions about women who came crawling back. "How's your dad handling the loan situation?" I asked. Her smile faltered for just a second. "He's managing." "Look, Ray, I wanted to apologize. You were right about everything. Daddy was being controlling, and I should have stood up to him. Little late for that, don't you think?" "It's never too late." She moved closer, her perfume filling my nostrils. "I miss you. I miss us." Over the next few weeks, she kept showing up. At the grocery store, at my favorite coffee shop, even at the gym. Always with that same apologetic smile, always dressed to kill. She was working me, and we both knew it. The thing is, I missed her too. 3 years is a long time to be with someone. I missed her laugh, the way she hummed in the shower, how she'd curl up against me on Sunday mornings. I missed having someone to come home to. So when she suggested we try again, slowly, no pressure, I said yes. We started dating again in September. She was different this time, or at least she seemed to be. More independent, less concerned with her father's approval. She'd gotten a promotion at work and moved into her own apartment. She talked about how the breakup had helped her grow, how she understood now what really mattered. I wanted to believe her. Hell, I did believe her for a while. The sex was incredible, better than it had ever been. She was hungry, desperate almost, like she was trying to prove something. Afterward, she'd trace patterns on my chest and talk about our future together. "I don't need a big wedding," she'd say. "Just us, maybe a few friends. Something simple. What about your dad? What about him? This is about us, not him." By November, she was spending most nights at my place. Her toothbrush appeared in my bathroom, her clothes in my closet. It felt natural, like we were picking up where we'd left off. That's when I met Carter Voss. Elise brought him up casually one evening over dinner. "Remember Carter from college? He's back in town, starting some kind of tech company." I didn't remember Carter, but I nodded anyway. "He reached out on Facebook, wants to get the old gang together for drinks." "The old gang?" "You know, Jenna, Marcus, Alicia, college friends." I knew Jenna and Alicia from various parties over the years. Jenna was loud and gossipy, the kind of woman who collected drama like some people collect stamps. Alicia was quieter, more observant. I'd always liked her. Marcus was new to me. "Sounds fun," I said, though it didn't. The reunion was set for the following Friday at Zenith, the trendy rooftop bar downtown. I wore my best shirt and tried to psych myself up for an evening of nostalgic small talk and overpriced cocktails. Carter Voss turned out to be everything I'd expected, and worse. Tall, tanned, with the kind of effortless confidence that comes from never being told no. His handshake was too firm, his smile too bright, and his eyes lingered on Elise just a little too long when he thought I wasn't looking. "Ray!" he boomed, like we were old friends. "Great to finally meet you. Elise has told me so much about you. All good, I hope." "Of course. She says you're in IT security. That's fascinating. I'm actually looking for someone with your expertise for my new venture." Marcus turned out to be Carter's wingman, a stocky guy with a goatee who laughed too loud at everything Carter said. Jenna hung on every word like Carter was delivering the Sermon on the Mount. Only Alicia seemed unimpressed, nursing her wine and watching the dynamics with sharp eyes. As the evening wore on, I noticed things. The way Carter's hand brushed Elise's arm when he talked. How she laughed at his jokes, really laughed, not the polite chuckle she usually gave. The inside references to college parties and shared memories I wasn't part of. "Remember that weekend at Lake George?" Carter said, grinning at Elise. "You were so wild back then." "I was not," she protested, but she was blushing. Oh, please, Jenna chimed in. You were totally wild. Remember when you and Carter… Jenna, Elise cut her off, shooting a nervous glance at me. The conversation moved on, but the damage was done. There was history between Elise and Carter, the kind of history that involved late nights and bad decisions, the kind she'd never mentioned to me. I excused myself to the bathroom and found Carter waiting by the bar when I came out. "Ray, buddy," he said, putting a hand on my shoulder. "I hope there's no weirdness about me and Elise." That was a long time ago. I didn't know there was anything to be weird about. His smile was razor sharp. "Oh, she didn't tell you?" "We dated senior year. Pretty serious, actually. I thought she might be the one, but you know how it is. Life takes you in different directions." "Right," I said, my throat suddenly dry. "She's a special woman." "You're a lucky guy." The way he said it made my skin crawl, like he was doing me a favor by letting me have her. We rejoined the group, but the evening was ruined for me. I watched Carter work the room, telling stories about his successful business ventures, his travels, his connections. He was everything I wasn't: flashy, charismatic, wealthy. And he wanted my girlfriend back. Worse, I could see it was working. Elise was mesmerized, hanging on his every word like she used to hang on mine. When he suggested we all meet up again the following week, she agreed before I could object. On the drive home, I tried to bring it up casually. "So you and Carter were a thing in college?" "Briefly," she said, not meeting my eyes. "It wasn't serious." He seemed to think it was. "Carter always was dramatic. You're not jealous, are you?" She said it teasingly, but there was an edge underneath. A warning. Should I be? "Don't be ridiculous, Ray." That was years ago. I'm with you now. But as I watched her get ready for bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. The way she moved, the way she avoided my eyes in the mirror, it all felt different. That night, she turned away from me when I reached for her. "I'm tired," she mumbled into her pillow. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe, and wondered when exactly I'd lost her. The second group outing was at Marcus's apartment the following Saturday. He lived in one of those converted warehouse lofts that screamed, "I have more money than taste." Exposed brick walls, industrial lighting, furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. I brought a bottle of wine and my growing sense of unease. Carter was already there when we arrived, holding court in the living room with a tumbler of whiskey in his hand. He'd dressed down for the occasion, jeans and a casual button-down that probably cost more than my mortgage payment. "Ray." "Elise!" He stood to greet us, kissing Elise on both cheeks like some European playboy. "So glad you could make it." The evening followed the same pattern as before. Carter dominated the conversation while everyone else orbited around him like planets around the sun. He told stories about his latest business deal, name-dropped celebrities he'd met, showed off photos from his recent trip to Dubai. "You should come with me next time," he said to Elise. "You'd love the shopping there." "I'm sure Ray would love that," she laughed, but her eyes lingered on Carter's phone screen. I excused myself to get another beer and found Alicia in the kitchen, leaning against the counter with a thoughtful expression. "Quite a show, isn't it?" she said quietly. "What do you mean?" "Come on, Ray. You're not blind. Carter's putting on a full-court press and Elise is eating it up." I opened my beer and took a long sip. Maybe I'm imagining things. "You're not." She moved closer, lowering her voice. "Look, I like you. You're a good guy and you don't deserve this, but you need to know what you're dealing with. Which is, Carter Voss is a predator, always has been. In college, he had this thing about taking other guys' girlfriends. It was like a sport to him. And Elise?" Alicia's expression softened. "Elise is complicated. She wants things. Nice things. Security status. You provide some of that, but Carter provides more." "So, what are you saying?" "I'm saying be careful, and maybe start paying closer attention." When we rejoined the group, Carter was showing everyone pictures from his penthouse apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows, marble countertops, a view that stretched to the horizon. "You'll have to come see it sometime," he said to Elise. "Both of you, of course," he added, glancing at me with that same sharp smile. The party broke up around midnight. Carter made a show of saying goodbye to everyone, but his farewell to Elise lasted just a little too long. I saw him slip something into her hand, probably his business card, but it felt more intimate than that. Over the next few weeks, Elise became distant. She was always on her phone, texting someone and smiling at the screen. When I asked who it was, she'd say, "Just work stuff," or "Jenna being Jenna." She started working late more often, coming home tired and distracted. Our conversations became perfunctory. "How was your day? Fine. How was yours? Fine." The passionate woman who'd been trying to win me back just months earlier had been replaced by a polite stranger. The sex stopped altogether. She always had an excuse: headache, exhaustion, stress from work. When I tried to initiate, she'd stiffen and pull away. "What's wrong?" I asked one night after another rejection. "Nothing's wrong. I'm just tired. You're always tired lately." "I'm sorry I'm not available for your convenience 24/7, she snapped. It was our first real fight since getting back together, and it felt like a dam breaking. All the tension and unspoken resentment came pouring out. "That's not what I meant, and you know it," I said. "We used to be close. Now I feel like I'm living with a roommate. Maybe that's because you're so suspicious all the time. Always watching me, questioning me. It's exhausting. I'm suspicious because you're acting suspicious. I'm acting like a person with her own life. God, Ray, you can be so controlling." The word hit me like a slap. Controlling. The same thing she'd accused her father of being. "I'm not trying to control you," I said quietly. "I just want to know what's going on with us." Her expression softened slightly. "Nothing's going on. I'm just adjusting. This is all moving pretty fast. We were together for 3 years before. That was different. We're different now." She came over and kissed my forehead, a gesture that felt more maternal than romantic. "Give me some time, okay? I just need some space to figure things out. Space, the death knell of relationships everywhere." I gave her space. I stopped asking about her late nights and mysterious text messages. I stopped trying to initiate physical contact. I became the perfect, understanding boyfriend, and it was killing me inside. That's when Pete started asking questions. "You look like hell," he said one Thursday at Murphy's. "What's going on?" I told him everything: the distance, the rejection, the growing certainty that I was losing her to Carter Voss. "So what are you going to do about it?" he asked. "What can I do?" "I can't make her love me." "No, but you can find out what's really going on. You're an IT security expert, for Christ's sake. Use your skills. You're talking about spying on my girlfriend. I'm talking about protecting yourself. If she's cheating, you deserve to know." The idea made me sick, but it also made sense. I'd spent weeks walking on eggshells, trying to be the perfect boyfriend while she pulled further away. Maybe it was time to stop being naive. That weekend, while Elise was at her yoga class, I checked her laptop. She'd left it open on the kitchen table, which was either careless or a subconscious cry for help. Her email was clean, but her browser history told a different story. Multiple searches for Carter's company, his social media profiles, articles about his business success. She'd been researching him like a graduate student writing a thesis. I dug deeper, using techniques I'd learned in my security work. Deleted files, cached data, temporary internet files. Most people don't realize how much digital evidence they leave behind. That's when I found the photos. They were in her recently deleted folder, probably removed by accident. Carter at various social events, looking successful and handsome. Carter with other women, all of them beautiful and expensively dressed. And then, buried among the others, a selfie that made my blood run cold. Carter and Elise together, her head on his shoulder, both of them smiling at the camera. She was wearing the blue dress I'd bought her for her birthday. The metadata showed it had been taken 3 days earlier. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. 3 days earlier, she'd told me she was working late on a project presentation. Instead, she'd been with Carter, intimate enough to take couple photos. My hands were shaking as I copied the files to a flash drive. I needed more evidence, but I also needed to be smart about it. If I was going to confront her, I wanted the whole truth, not just pieces. That's when I remembered the burner phone. I'd noticed the phone 2 weeks earlier, tucked under some papers in Elise's purse. At the time, I'd assumed it was a work device. Her company had been talking about upgrading their security protocols. But now, in light of everything else, it took on a more sinister significance. The next morning, while Elise was in the shower, I carefully searched her purse. The phone was there, a cheap Android model with a cracked screen protector. I powered it on, my heart hammering against my ribs. No lock screen. Either she was careless or she wanted to get caught. The text message history made me want to throw up. Carter. Can't stop thinking about last night. Elise. Me neither. Ray's getting suspicious, though. Carter. So tell him the truth. You're too good for him anyway. Elise. It's complicated. I need more time. Carter. Time for what? You know where this is going. Elise. I know. Just let me handle it my way. There were dozens of messages, going back weeks. Intimate details about their encounters, cruel jokes about my appearance and personality, plans for future meetings. The woman I'd been living with, sleeping next to, trying desperately to reconnect with, had been conducting a full-blown affair right under my nose. But it was the most recent exchange that really gutted me. Carter. Marcus is throwing a party this weekend. Tell Ray you have to work. Elise. What if someone sees us together? Carter. So what? It's time to stop sneaking around. I want everyone to know you're mine. Elise. Soon. I promise. I just need to figure out the logistics. Carter. What logistics? Pack a bag and move in with me. It's not rocket science. Elise. There's the house, our shared accounts, all the practical stuff. I can't just disappear. Carter. Leave that to me. I know people who can handle the details. The shower was still running. I quickly photographed the most damaging messages, then powered down the phone and put it back where I'd found it. My mind was reeling. It wasn't just an affair. They were planning my complete destruction. The people who can handle the details sounded ominous, like they were plotting to take me for everything I had. I needed help, and I knew exactly who to call. Pete arrived an hour after Elise left for work, carrying a laptop bag and a grim expression. I'd given him the basics over the phone, but seeing the evidence firsthand made it real. Jesus, Ray, he said, scrolling through the photos of the text messages. This is brutal. Pete worked in digital forensics for the police department. He knew how to gather evidence and, more importantly, how to do it legally. What are my options? I asked. Depends what you want to accomplish. If you just want to end the relationship, you've got enough here to justify kicking her out. But if you think they're planning something illegal, like what? Identity theft, financial fraud, false accusations. Rich guys like Carter don't get their hands dirty, but they know people who will. The thought made my blood run cold. So what do? We get ahead of them. Document everything, secure your assets, and prepare for war. Over the next few hours, Pete helped me set up surveillance on my own home network. If Elise was using my Wi-Fi to communicate with Carter, we'd capture every byte of data. We also installed hidden cameras in the common areas, living room, kitchen, entryway. Nothing in the bedroom or bathroom, since that would be illegal, but enough to document any suspicious activity. You need to act normal, Pete warned. Don't let on that you know anything. Let them make the first move. How long do we wait? Not long. Based on these messages, they're planning something for this weekend. The weekend in question was Marcus's birthday party. Elise had mentioned it casually, saying she might stop by after work on Friday. Now I knew it was going to be much more than that. Friday evening, Elise came home from work with a small overnight bag. "Jenna's having a crisis," she explained. "Her boyfriend broke up with her and she needs someone to stay with her tonight. Girl emergency." "Of course," I said, not looking up from my laptop. "Take care of her." She kissed the top of my head, a gesture that now felt like betrayal, and headed for the door. "I might not be back until tomorrow afternoon," she said. "Jenna's pretty broken up. Take all the time you need." The moment her car pulled out of the driveway, I was on the phone with Pete. She's gone. Now what? Now we follow her. Pete had borrowed an unmarked surveillance van from work. We parked across the street from Marcus's building and waited. Sure enough, Elise's car arrived 20 minutes later, but instead of going up to the apartment, she got into a waiting BMW, Carter's BMW. We followed them through downtown to the Meridian Hotel, one of the most expensive places in the city. Carter handed his keys to the valet like he owned the place, then escorted Elise through the lobby with his hand on the small of her back. "You getting this?" Pete asked, adjusting the telephoto lens on his camera. "Every frame." We waited in the parking garage for 3 hours. When they finally emerged, both looked disheveled and satisfied. Carter was smoking a cigarette, something I'd never seen him do in public. Elise was checking her phone, probably making sure I hadn't tried to reach her. They drove back to Marcus's building, where the party was apparently in full swing. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, we could see people drinking and laughing. Carter and Elise joined the group, and within minutes, they were all over each other, kissing, groping, acting like a couple. "Son of a bitch," I muttered. "You want to go up there?" Pete asked. "Confront them in front of everyone?" The idea was tempting, but I shook my head. "Not yet. I want to see how far they'll take this." We didn't have to wait long. Around midnight, Carter made some kind of announcement to the group. Everyone raised their glasses in a toast, laughing and congratulating him. Elise was beaming like she'd won the lottery. My phone buzzed with a text message. "Elise. Staying at Jenna's tonight. She's really struggling. Love you." The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. She was celebrating her betrayal while sending me love messages. "I've seen enough," I told Pete. We drove back to my house in silence. I felt hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides with a spoon. 3 years of my life, wasted on a woman who could lie to my face without blinking. But beneath the hurt was something else. Anger. Cold, calculating anger. They thought they were so clever, so sophisticated. They thought I was just some naive IT geek who'd roll over and play dead while they destroyed my life. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Saturday afternoon, Elise returned home with red eyes and a story about Jenna's emotional breakdown. She was an excellent actress. I had to give her that. If I hadn't seen the hotel photos, I might have believed her performance. "How's Jenna doing?" I asked. "Better. She just needed someone to listen, you know." "You're a good friend." She smiled and kissed my cheek. "I'm going to take a shower." Last night was exhausting. While she was upstairs, I checked the hidden cameras. The footage from the previous evening showed her packing the overnight bag with lingerie I'd never seen before. Black lace, expensive looking. She'd also taken jewelry from her dresser, including earrings I'd given her for Christmas. My phone rang. "Pete. You need to see this," he said. "Can you get away?" "Give me an hour." I told Elise I was going to help Pete move some furniture, then drove to his apartment across town. He had his laptop set up on the kitchen table, surrounded by printouts and photographs. "I've been digging into Carter Voss," he said without preamble. "Guy's not as successful as he pretends to be." "What do you mean?" "His company's hemorrhaging money. 3 failed ventures in the past 5 years, all funded by investor capital that mysteriously disappeared. He's being investigated by the SEC for securities fraud." Pete showed me financial records, court documents, news articles. Carter Voss was a con man, living off other people's money while his businesses collapsed around him. He needs a new source of funding, Pete continued. And you, my friend, represent a nice, stable target. Me? I'm not rich. No, but you own a house, have a successful business, good credit. In his world, that makes you a mark. The pieces were falling into place. Elise's sudden reappearance in my life, the reconciliation, moving back in with me, it had all been orchestrated. She was setting me up for Carter to fleece. There's more, Pete said, pulling up another document. I ran a background check on your girlfriend. Turns out she's been busy since your breakup. The credit report made my stomach drop. Elise had opened 3 new credit cards in the past 6 months, all maxed out. She owed money to department stores, online retailers, even a payday loan company. Her debt totaled nearly $50,000. She's broke, I said. Worse than broke. She's desperate. And desperate people do stupid things. Like seduce their ex-boyfriend to gain access to his assets. Like conspire with a con man to commit fraud. Like lie about everything while planning my destruction. What's the play here? I asked. Monday morning, you secure everything. Move your money to accounts she can't access. Change all your passwords. Document every asset you own. Then you kick her out and file a police report. What about evidence of the affair? Pete grinned. Leave that to me. Sunday evening, Elise suggested we have dinner at Romano's, the Italian place where we'd had our first date. She was being unusually affectionate, holding my hand across the table, laughing at my jokes. The condemned man's last meal. I've been thinking about us, she said over dessert, about our future. Oh. I know things have been weird lately. I've been distant, distracted. But I want you to know that I love you, Ray. I want to make this work. What brought this on? Seeing Jenna so broken up about her relationship made me realize how lucky I am. We have something special. She reached across the table and took my hand. Her engagement ring, the one I'd bought her years earlier, caught the candlelight. I was thinking maybe we should make it official again, she said. Get married. Start planning our life together. The audacity was breathtaking. She was sitting there, fresh from her lover's bed, proposing marriage while planning to rob me blind. That's a big step, I said carefully. I know, but I'm ready. Are you? I looked into her eyes, searching for any trace of the woman I'd fallen in love with. But all I saw was calculation, the cold assessment of a predator sizing up prey. Let me think about it, I said. Monday morning, I called in sick to work and spent the day securing my assets. New bank accounts, updated passwords, copies of all important documents stored in a safety deposit box. I also called my lawyer and gave him the full story. You need to be very careful here, he warned. If they're planning financial fraud, they might also be setting you up for criminal charges. False domestic violence accusations, sexual assault claims, anything to discredit you while they clean out your accounts. That afternoon, while Elise was at work, Pete and I installed additional surveillance equipment. Micro cameras, audio recorders, GPS trackers. If they were planning something, we'd capture every detail. Tuesday evening, the trap was sprung. Elise came home with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine. She was nervous, fidgety, checking her phone every few minutes. Everything okay? I asked. Fine. Just work stuff. At 8 o'clock, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her face went pale. I have to take this, she said, stepping into the kitchen. The conversation was brief but heated. I couldn't make out the words, but her tone was urgent, almost panicked. When she returned, she was visibly shaken. Ray, I need to tell you something, she said, sitting down beside me on the couch. Here it comes, I thought. I haven't been completely honest with you about my financial situation. I'm in some trouble. What kind of trouble? Credit cards, mostly. I got in over my head after our breakup, trying to maintain my lifestyle. I owe about $30,000. She was lowballing the actual amount, probably testing my reaction. That's a lot of money, I said. I know, and the thing is, they're threatening to garnish my wages. I could lose my job. Tears welled up in her eyes, real ones, as far as I could tell. I don't know what to do, Ray. I'm scared. What are you asking me? I need help. A loan. Just until I can get back on my feet. I'll pay you back, I promise. How much? 50,000. I know it's a lot, but 50? I thought you said 30. She flinched. There are other expenses. Legal fees, interest, penalties. It's complicated. I'm sure it is. I stood up and walked to the window, pretending to consider her request. In reality, I was buying time while the hidden cameras captured every word. I need to think about this, I said finally. $50,000 is a lot of money. Of course. Take all the time you need. But her expression said otherwise. This wasn't a request. It was a demand. And if I didn't comply willingly, they'd find another way to get what they wanted. Wednesday morning, I got my answer. I woke up to find Elise already dressed for work, standing by the bedroom door with her phone in her hand. Ray, we need to talk. Her tone was different now. Cold, businesslike. The mask was finally coming off. What about? I've been thinking about my situation, and I've decided to be completely honest with you. She sat on the edge of the bed but kept her distance. I'm leaving you, she said. This isn't working, and I can't pretend anymore. I see. The thing is, I need that money we discussed. And I think, given everything we've been through together, you owe me that much. I owe you? We lived together for almost a year this time. Common law marriage. I'm entitled to half of everything you own. There it was. The real plan. Not a loan, but extortion dressed up as a legal claim. That's not how common law marriage works in this state, I said. Her eyes narrowed. Maybe not legally, but morally, ethically. You brought me back into your life, made me dependent on you, and now you're throwing me away again. That has to be worth something. And if I disagree? Then things get complicated. People might hear stories about your temper, your controlling behavior, how you isolated me from my friends, monitored my activities, made me feel unsafe. The threat was clear. Pay up or face false accusations that would destroy my reputation and possibly land me in jail. I need time to consider this, I said. You have until Friday. After that, I start making phone calls. She left for work without another word. I waited until her car was out of sight, then called Pete. It's happening, I said. Time to end this. Friday afternoon, I texted Elise. Let's talk tonight. I've made my decision. She responded immediately. Good. Carter's coming over to help mediate. Of course he was. They weren't even pretending anymore. Pete arrived at 5 o'clock with a van full of equipment. We spent an hour setting up additional cameras and audio recorders, making sure every angle was covered. Remember, he said, let them do the talking. The more they reveal, the stronger our case becomes. Carter arrived first, driving his BMW like he owned the neighborhood. He was dressed casually but expensively. Designer jeans, Italian leather shoes, a watch that probably cost more than most people's cars. Elise showed up 10 minutes later, carrying a briefcase that hadn't been there that morning. I opened the door before they could knock. Ray, Carter said, extending his hand like we were old friends. Thanks for agreeing to meet. Wouldn't miss it. We sat in the living room, me on one side, them on the other. The hidden cameras captured everything from multiple angles. So, Carter began, Elise has filled me in on the situation. Sounds like you two have some things to work out, such as financial obligations, relationship equity, the usual complications when couples separate. Elise opened her briefcase and pulled out a folder thick with documents. "I've had a lawyer draw up a separation agreement," she said, sliding it across the coffee table. "It outlines a fair division of assets and responsibilities." I flipped through the pages, struggling to keep my expression neutral. They wanted everything: the house, my business assets, even my retirement accounts. In exchange, I'd be released from any claims of emotional or financial abuse. "This seems rather one-sided," I said. "Not at all," Carter replied. "You're getting a clean slate, no legal complications. That's worth quite a bit in today's climate." "And if I refuse?" Elise's expression hardened. "Then we do this the hard way. Lawyers, depositions, public accusations. It gets messy for everyone." "Especially you," Carter added. "Domestic abuse allegations tend to follow a man around even when they're proven false." There it was, the explicit threat: sign over my assets or face criminal charges. "You've really thought this through," I said. "We're not monsters, Ray," Elise said, though her tone suggested otherwise. "We're just trying to be practical. You'll rebuild. You're smart, capable. But right now I need help, and you're in a position to provide it. Out of curiosity, what happens to you two after this? Do you ride off into the sunset together?" Carter smiled. "Elise and I have history. We understand each other in ways that, well, let's just say we're compatible." "Financially compatible, you mean?" "Among other things." I set the documents aside and leaned back in my chair. "Before I sign anything, I have a question for both of you." "Of course," Elise said. "How long has this been planned?" They exchanged glances. Carter's smile faltered slightly. "I'm not sure what you mean," Elise said. "The reconciliation, the moving back in together, the whole loving girlfriend act. How long have you two been planning this?" "Ray, you're being paranoid." "Am I?" I stood up and walked to the bookshelf where I'd hidden one of the cameras. "Because from where I sit, it looks like an elaborate con game. You needed money, Carter needed a mark, and I was the perfect target." "That's ridiculous," Carter said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Is it?" "Let's see." Elise shows up out of nowhere, apologetic and affectionate. We get back together. Then Carter appears, all charm and success stories. Elise starts pulling away, creating distance and conflict. Meanwhile, she's racking up debt and planning her exit strategy. I turn to face them directly. The only thing I can't figure out is whether the affair started before or after the financial planning. Elise's face went white. "What affair?" "Please, you've been sleeping with him for months. The hotel receipts, the text messages, the burner phone. Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" Carter stood up abruptly. "I think we're done here." "Sit down," I said, and something in my voice made him comply. "We're just getting started." I walked to the kitchen and returned with a manila envelope. "Elise, remember that night you stayed at Jenna's? The one where she was having an emotional crisis?" I pulled out the hotel photos and spread them on the coffee table. Funny thing about the Meridian Hotel, they have excellent security cameras. The images were crystal clear: Carter and Elise entering the hotel, emerging hours later, returning to Marcus's party where they celebrated their deception. "You son of a bitch," Carter snarled. "You've been spying on us." "I've been protecting myself." "There's a difference." I pulled out more documents, financial records, background checks, SEC investigation reports. Carter Voss, age 42, currently under investigation for securities fraud. 3 failed businesses, 2 bankruptcies, and a pattern of defrauding investors. Your last company folded 6 months ago, leaving you with substantial debts and no legitimate income. Carter's face was red with rage. "You have no right." And Elise Roth, age 36, currently $53,000 in debt across multiple credit accounts. Unemployed as of last week, yes, I checked, and facing potential criminal charges for check fraud in 2 states. "That's not true," Elise protested. "Isn't it?" The payday loan company in Ohio would disagree. So would the department store in Pennsylvania where you opened an account using your stepmother's social security number. The room fell silent. Both of them looked like deer caught in headlights. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "You're going to leave my house right now and never come back. You're going to disappear from my life completely. And in exchange, I won't turn this evidence over to the police." "You can't prove anything," Carter said, but his voice was shaky. "Can't I? Conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, extortion. I've got enough evidence to put you both away for years." I walked to the front door and opened it. "Get out." Elise stood up slowly, her face streaked with tears. "Ray, please. We can work this out." "No, we can't. You made your choice when you decided to destroy me. Now live with the consequences." Carter grabbed her arm. "Come on, we're done here." They headed for the door, but Carter stopped at the threshold. "This isn't over," he said. I smiled. "Yes, it is." After they left, I called Pete. "Did you get everything?" "Every word, every gesture, every threat. They just handed us enough evidence to put them away for a decade." "Good. File the police report first thing Monday morning. What about you? How are you feeling?" I looked around the house, my house, free and clear of debt and deception, like I just dodged a bullet. 3 weeks later, I was having dinner at Romano's when the news broke. Carter Voss had been arrested on federal fraud charges, with additional counts of conspiracy and extortion based on evidence provided by an unnamed witness. Elise was named as a co-conspirator and was facing her own list of charges. The local newspaper ran the story on the front page, complete with photos of both suspects being led away in handcuffs. The headline read, "Local businessman arrested in elaborate con scheme." I finished my dinner and drove home, where a bottle of good whiskey was waiting. I poured myself 3 fingers and sat on my back deck, looking out at the lake. My phone buzzed with a text from Pete. "Justice served. How does it feel?" I typed back, "Like freedom." And for the first time in months, I smiled.